Good afternoon to the members of the media, and it's a pleasure once again to have you here. We are here to have a press conference with the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Dr. Bharrat Jagdeo, who will bring to you again some very important issues. You know, right now we're doing the examination of the estimates from the 2017 budget. And coming out of those sessions, there have been a lot of revelations coming out from them. So I'll now hand you over to the Leader of the Opposition, Dr. Bharrat Jagdeo, who will give you more in-depth information on those issues.
Thank you, Julian. I've, since last Friday, I've been asked to comment on issues raised by the two final speakers in the budget debate. And I've refrained from doing so largely because I thought that the people of this country will be the judge of whether the issues raised by those speakers responded to their concerns. But I'll make a few brief comments about those presentations without going into them in any great detail. The first one done by the Prime Minister, Mr. Nagamutu, I think there's very little to respond to. He's been true to form. 75% of his speech was about himself, as is the trend. And I've noticed him trying to defend the enormous increase in his budget, $225 million increase at a time when they claim that they don't have fiscal space. And I saw a clip going around or being circulated on social media saying that whether we wanted him to drive around in a jackass cart, his words, and sit on a pier in the Prime Minister's office, house rather. This is the same person who used to talk about Cadillac lifestyle and donkey cart economy. But you would recall that Samuel Hines lived in that house, and he and Yvonne Hines, they conducted themselves with great dignity using the same furniture. They didn't sit on a pier. He didn't find the furniture fitting, so the state had to spend another $20 million on buying furniture for the Prime Minister's residence, apart from the $46 million we spent on rehabilitating the place and $22 million on a vehicle. So we didn't expect him to drive around in a donkey cart. But between spending $22 million on a vehicle, on a single vehicle, and a donkey cart, there's a big difference. Could have bought any other vehicle, but he did. We're spending $11.2 million a month on the upkeep of the Prime Minister. Over $170 million a year. Rather, $675 million per annum we will be spending in the 5 years period that he will be Prime Minister. That's equivalent to 5% wages and salaries for all the workers of Gaisuko. On one person, we'll be spending that, the equivalent of that, on this Prime Minister. So all the spin that they've spoken about is not going to change people's understanding of the reality that there is a grab now of resources. So, Mr. Jordan, it is really sad, pathetic, when a significant part of the minister's speech, which should have been in defense of his budget, should be spent on Jagdeo. So and praising himself, criticizing Jagdeo and praising himself. So he went to the best schools in the world, and he was a super finance minister all these years, and he wrote 40 budget speeches or whatever. When someone has to resort to that, it's either he doesn't want to deal with the issues at hand, or he feels very insecure. Now, he mentioned about my salary increase as president. What he didn't say is that the last 5 years as president, if you compare that with 5 years of just Nagamutu, forget the president, that Nagamutu, the 5 years under Jagdeo, the last 5 years, and 5 years under Nagamutu, the prime minister now will get $30 million more than I got. And he was never president. I was president, and that's head of state and head of government for 12 years. And I had a substantive portfolio. He has nothing. That's one. A minister now will get, in 5 years, almost equivalent to what I got the last 5 years of my presidency in wages and salaries. A minister, and we have 27 of them. Some of them can't even read the brief that their staff prepare for them. You see it manifesting itself often in the parliament. So I have different recollections of Jordan in the Ministry of Finance than he had. I have very, very different recollections. And this mystique about this budget, how it's prepared, this is not it. The budget, in fact, 90% of this draft is done by the agencies. So on the monetary side, the central bank will draft the section on monetary variables, the monetary situation and balance of payment. The Office of the Budget on fiscal, the debt management unit would deal with a section. And then somebody will put it together. That's what he did. But I think he was smarting from the point that I want to repeat now, that he never sat in the room where policy was discussed. A budget is not a collection of numbers or this speech that anybody could read. It is about policies and their impact on people and the country. And I pointed out for 22 years, I sat in that room where the policy was discussed whilst he was sitting in the Ministry of Finance, pulling together the pieces from the different agencies and thinking that it was wonderful technical work he was doing. As I said, I don't want to think, but I recall distinctly him coming back and asking me to see me several times, setting appointments, couldn't find a job, and we rehired him. But that's all. I did not want to talk too much about Jordan. But did he respond to these things? The miners have been saying, this budget will kill mining. Why did he not respond to that? He said there will be an increase in disposable income, and then he put 4 taxes on the disposable income, increase in disposable income. No, a first-year student of economics will know that you can't put in taxes on the increase of disposable income. When you take taxes from people, you decrease their disposable income. He's done so for mining. The miners today, I saw they put out an ad in the papers talking about the impact of this budget. He did not respond to their concerns except for criticizing the private sector. He did not respond to the concerns that so many people have and that we raised about the numbers in VAT that he has, that the 3-card trick game they are playing to people, saying they're fulfilling their elections manifesto by reducing the rate by 2 percentage points from 16 to 14, and then collecting, based on his numbers, close to $13 billion more. And I pointed out in the budget how that number is underestimated, because even from the government side, you'll probably have another 12 billion. We think that they will collect $25 billion around that figure more than they collected last year, when the total VAT collection was 35 billion. That's not a 25% increase. It's not a 38% increase, as I pointed out. It's close to 70% increase in the taxes. He has not responded to that. I pointed out that 92% of national investment will be financed from domestic saving. Do you know the impact of this in 2017? It's up from about 50% in 2014. Now, two things it tells you. It tells you that foreign direct investment is not coming in. And two, that after 2 or 3 years of doing this, the balance of payment will just tank. The private sector will be crowded out. Interest rates will go up because the government is competing for funds in the local capital markets, and the exchange rate will depreciate significantly. He has now responded to those concerns. There are so many other things. He has not responded to the concerns of the people in the forestry sector. They've been crying for help. The public servants, he said, measures to increase disposable income of public servants, and then does not announce a salary increase or any bonus or anything for 2017. From our understanding, when we look at it, it looks like a 5% increase next year, from looking at what they have in the budget. But they're hoping by collecting more VAT, they may be able to do a bit more in that regard, because the VAT numbers are going to go up significantly. So he then he got so much battering that he then comes in and throws in this $25,000 tax-free allowance at the end of the year. I'm telling you that because of the last month is estimated in the numbers that came. The estimates will be significantly lower. The actual spending will be significantly lower than estimates. They have fiscal room to give the 1 month tax-free salary that I've called for public servants and for the discipline services, as well as pay the 5% for the 2 years for the sugar workers. They will have enough fiscal room just from the underspending in this month compared to the estimates that they presented to us. But he has not responded to that. He just goes on criticizing. And so he has not responded to our contention, arguing they don't have fiscal space. Oh, we don't have room in the budget. We can't spend because we don't have money. But I pointed out that the cost of this one bond per year is twice the size of the capital budget for health in Region 4. Twice the size of the capital budget for Region 4, from Mahika all the way up to the highway. One man is getting all of that money. Twice the size of the capital budget. That bond, what we'll pay in 1 year in rental for this bottom house that you saw yourself, that we're storing condom in, that we will be more than the entire capital budget for Region 6, a region of over 100,000 people. Entire capital budget for that region. And one man gets it in a bottom house. And how you don't have fiscal space. We've seen the latest scandal yesterday. An unbelievable scandal. They came to they started off from this project will cost the nation no money. People had enormous goodwill for the new government. They will build the stadium. They will donate. And so we move from that now to 400 million in the first instance. Then it moved to 150. Then to 400 million that they got. They came to the House and said they needed. And Parliament took taxpayers' money, 400 million, and put it in. Then Patterson said to the House, oh, the rest of it was done by this private company. Don't ask me about it. You go and ask them. That's what he said the last time. You recall Patterson said in this House, when he presented, he did not say that Rupert Roopnaraine was one of the directors. He misled the House. But he also said, don't ask me any questions about this private company. You go and ask them. Now, they've come back yesterday in the budget, in this budget, to put in another $500 million for this private company. And when asked about who is going to pay this, how they're going to effect the transfer, the payments, he said, we're not going to make the payment. We'll give the money to this private company now. Now, from the beginning we were saying, there's been no public tender. Imagine spending $1 billion of taxpayers' money. So far it's 904 plus this 5. $900 million of taxpayers' money without any public tender. If we spent 10 million Guyana dollars and we didn't have public tender, you would hear the big outcry of corruption in the past. This is $900 million. And they've given it. But if you look at, you add down the list, you will see that the liabilities of this company, just add down this list, you will see the liabilities are over $800 million, not $500 million. So we anticipate they'll come back here for another $300 million soon. So this project will run the taxpayers into $1.2 billion at a minimum. Now they give the figures for donations, and look how paltry it is. This morning I had calls from 2 persons to say, our names are not there, and we gave large sums to the project. But they didn't, it's not in this column here, or the list of the donors. The people's names are there. Combined about $30 million alone, those companies. So one, we believe there's corruption in listing the donors. We believe there's corruption in the tendering process. Well, lack of tendering process, calling in people. You know, they call in some people and give them a little piece of paper like this, tiny piece, and say, you have a contract for $300 million, $400 million, $50 million. No agreement, nothing. Call them in. And now we have to, the taxpayers have to pay. And the thing is that they don't have fiscal space to give money to the Indigenous Peoples Commission or the Ethnic Relations Commission. And because of these things, they have to increase taxes on ordinary people. Unbelievable, this argument about fiscal space. So as if this was not enough, yesterday in the questioning, the minister revealed, one of the ministers revealed, that now they will increase the fares on the harbor bridge. So they couldn't put it even in their budget. Imagine about 20 pages of this budget are dedicated, and that's where Jordan is clever. Maybe his good school helped him to write up those 20 pages. 20 pages of tax measures in this budget. So it was, again, they didn't want that to be included. So we have not even completed the appropriation. We're still in the debates, and now another set of increased fees for people. Now this time it's the harbor bridge. But I pointed out that the 2 studies that they're using, Cartec study and the tax reform study, Jordan said this is just the beginning of tax reforms based on those studies. After instituting 200 taxes, this is unacceptable. The one thing else that they have not responded to, they criticized throughout this debate PPP. What have we got to do with it? Even if we messed up in the past, we did not table a budget that will raise taxes on prescription drugs, which is prohibited by PAHO or advised against by PAHO, WHO. We didn't put a budget here that will raise taxes on doctors' consultation fees, or children's education, or basic food items, or water, electricity. It's not us. But we get criticized. You know, this is what the PPP did. And then they argue we don't have room. We don't have fiscal space. So the government, as you would see, has not defended any of its proposal. Its whole attack has been on PPP. And let me tell you something now. What they have done, we saw this with Patterson. When we did not come to listen to the president's speech, he posted on Facebook that we will now accelerate the charging of these people and accelerate what investigations. So last night and this morning, 5 members of Parliament of the People's Progressive Party, Frank Anthony, Indra Chandapal, Irfan Ali, Joe Hamilton, and Bishop Edgehill, received letters from the GRA talking about their property tax between yesterday and today. 5 of them, and I suspect it's the government's vindictiveness again. Either it's Jordan or the collective view of the government, and you will see the acceleration of this. 5 of them in the middle of the debate received this from the government. But they think by threatening investigations, by threatening to lock up people, that they will intimidate us. They will not. They're never going to muzzle us. In fact, if we use their own standards, half of this cabinet will be in jail. If they use their own standards that they were talking about before. If they and launch investigations in a forensic investigation into the bond and into the Durban Park fiasco, just those 2, it runs deep into the cabinet. And so this is diversionary. I just want to say I'm appalled that they have collected now close to $15 billion they have sitting in a bank account for GPL. $15 billion because they have not passed on the benefits of lower fuel prices to the consumers. So GPL has been raking in over $500 million a month in profits and putting it there. And yet we have this unconscionable level of blackout, and they have no plan to fix it in the future. Absolutely no plan, excepting for this so-called wind farm that they are negotiating. And by the way, the wind farm individuals and the head of that project found his way into the members of Parliament lounge. In any part of this world, this would be criminal activities. Those people who bring them in there would be, because we are in active negotiations with these people, supposedly, and they come in and hang out in a restricted area. Only closeness to a few individuals could have allowed that to happen. Who brought them in? We heard explanations. Oh, they had a meeting with Ramjatan and the Prime Minister. Well, in the MP's chambers, we saw them there, came around and shook people's hands. Many people didn't even know who they were. But this is something that I want to return to. Today, I don't want to overload the system on that. So the blackout is unacceptable. We are happy that the president is finally responding to the concerns. We said there are 3 signals. You can increase money for the police, buy more equipment, and we left them a big project, 3.2 billion, Citizen Report 2. More money for the equipment, more policemen on the road, etc. But if the chief executive sends the wrong signal, then you're going to have increased crime. And the president has been sending the wrong signals. Because policemen are saying, they say that to me, people from even some lawyers, etc. If we lock them away, the president will release them. Because he believes that somehow these are petty crimes, etc. This year, he said he's not going to do so. So that's the beginning, and we applaud him for doing so. But there are two other signals that he needs to undo. He needs to undo the one where he spoke about legal people going after legal firearms. After the incident where one person shot two criminals, he sent the wrong signal there about taking back legal firearms. People who have legal firearms should be able to defend themselves in their homes if criminals come in. And secondly, to tell the police, don't shoot these people, basically. I'm paraphrasing. And because if they have weapons and point them at the police, these are people with family and children and stuff like that too. They have to place their lives at risk every day for the country. If you say to them, don't shoot at criminals, or they believe that a criminal has access to some minister or someplace else or Congress place, then they're not going to do it. But they don't want to put themselves at risk, so they would just sit on their hands. And a lot of policemen are taking that attitude now. He needs to undo that. He needs to undo. If he sends the right signal, things are going to happen. These are just some of the things I wanted to talk about today. This is an atrocious budget by any standard. Next year, the impact will be revealed. The true impact will be revealed. If people have money now, no investor that I've spoken to wants to invest anymore here. No help from this government except platitude and ignorance, pure ignorance of some of the basic things that drive growth. And so that's one. Two, a lot of people are now conserving their money because they don't know what will confront them, because there'll be an increase in cost of living. Many people have asked me for my advice, should I take my money out the bank? These people are going to come after that next. That's the kind of mood they put our country in. But they applaud. When they voted down our proposal on Durban Park, they applauded. And they applaud when Ramjatan says, oh, we have to tax people. They applaud the taxation policy. But they're busy benefiting, as we've seen. And there are hundreds of hidden benefits that ministers are getting. At some point in time, Gail, we have to reveal all of that. Not just the salary. They have a whole slew of other benefits that one time I total and would have cost close to $2.6 million a month on a minister we're spending. Thank you very much.
Mr. Jagdeo,
Yeah.
are we taking questions?
Yes.
Thank you,
Gail, you
members
want
of
to
the-
say anything? Sure.
I just wanted to say just for a few minutes, I think Dr. Jagdeo has covered the key and critical areas. For those of you who've also been there, you've noticed from time to time in the estimates that you're getting two different stories. One is the story from Mr. Harman, Minister, when you ask him about the estimates for 2016, and he says these are projected costs and not because the year's not over. Remember the point we made during the debate. The year's not over, and therefore, what are the real figures we're looking at? And he said that these are projected figures, and which obviously means that the figures for 2016 were not real, the revised figures, and no actual. Then you have Mr. Gaskin on the questioning saying, well, no, how could I have projected figures? Because then I wouldn't be telling the truth, because the year isn't over.
They don't understand.
So you also have these discrepancies going on, and you also will see for yourselves, I think some of you have your books, that the numbers don't match what is being for 2016 and 2017. The other mismatch to me is that there are a lot of promises in the budget, and in some cases we're looking for the promises, and we can't find them in the estimate. So, for example, the one about 20.6 billion being put aside for the intermediate savannas and land and so on to do with diversification agriculture, we can't find it. There's no special program or project. So you have those kind of things. We're on a tight schedule, and therefore the big ministries, I am sure will have many revelations. Are the ones coming Tuesday and Wednesday, social protection, which have some major concerns, education, health, and of course public security, I think, and the last one, of course, finance. But I think those key ministries are going to also, like the ones this week, have their own revelations that we will expose.
Yeah. There's one thing that I want to say, because I saw after my speech in Parliament, the Guyana Gold Board issued a statement saying that I had misled the country when I spoke about the level of their debt. If you go to page 825 of the estimates, volume 1, you will see this government's figure that in 2015 they made a loss, the Gold Board made a loss of $9.1 billion, and in 2016, $17.9 billion. You add the two, it's $27 billion of losses. I never spoke about debt, but they want to hide that by misdirection. They made, in 2 years, they've lost the equivalent of a Skeldon factory. They've lost the equivalent of a Skeldon factory and argue we don't have fiscal space. 2 years, unbelievable, $27 billion. And guess what they want to do? They want the miners now to pay for this incompetence. That's why I said Trotman should be fired. If we're holding people responsible now, because he takes the credit for oil and gas that the PPP left, and he takes the credit for gold numbers that come from the two companies that we left. Why shouldn't he take responsibility for the losses of the Gold Board too? Can't only take credit. You have to take responsibility. So thank you. Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll take questions from the media. Could you say which agency you're from?
Juliana is a tough woman.
And one question for now from every person.
There are those that are waves. Sir, isn't it reasonable that GRA would notify public office holders if they have a default in office taxes? And also, could you say how much money was owed by the MP's name?
Yeah, no. I'm saying it's the timing of it. It's a timing in the middle of the debate, especially after Jordan had such a rough time in Parliament. And then it comes on the heel of these frequent promises. Every time we say something, like we stayed away from the president's speech, so Patterson then threatens us with this. Every time we say something about Durban Park, you hear about something else coming up. Oh, we're going to come after the cabinet. So it is a pattern of behavior designed to intimidate. And they can use any state agency that they want. But I warned also public servants that if we believe they're acting politically, any public servant who acts impartially don't have anything to fear from us. But any of those who act politically, they have a lot to fear from us. They would have a lot to fear because that's not their function. And many of them, so that's my view. It is a pattern of behavior.
And how much is owed, sir?
I don't know. I haven't looked into the details.
Is it legitimate though the GRA recruitment and are your MPs going to
They receive letters. They receive letters, so they will respond to the GRA. From what many told me, they don't owe a cent of taxes. But it is the pattern in the middle of the debate. Clearly you saw it with Patterson, with Harman, with everyone, including the president. Every time we mount some criticism of them or expose them another act of corruption, and there are so many, they then go and after they say, we're going to come after you. Come after us. So it's no problem. Because you should have done that already. You've had nearly 2 years. You've had all your forensic audits. Do the worst that you can do. Charge whoever you have to charge to. But we will not be intimidated by this government. Never. Never.
So
no threat of charges.
Just for clarity, did you say that there are some MPs who indicated to you that they don't owe a cent
In taxes.
And who are these MPs?
From the same group.
All 5 of them?
Yes. I said some. I haven't spoken with all 5 of them. I just came in and they said to me last night and this morning they received it.
So would you mind
Okay, could we have another question from another media house, please?
I'm Dr. Nianchirina, I believe. Just something that was said by the finance minister, that you, Mr. Jagdeo, you never really talked the budget during your time there. And you basically presented a lot of misinformation to the guidance people, you along with some of the other officials.
My record is clear. Most of the times I speak without writing. I don't come with prepared statements that anybody could write for me. Like Jordan came and read the budget speech, etc. He even read his response. Many parts of his response he read. How do you respond to a budget speech and read your response? You should come and talk about it. So there is a difference, I believe, between intellectual work and plodding. And Jordan is a good plodder. That's all I say.
Any other person from another media? Just one question at a time, and then we'll come back around. Any other media house? Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So the PSC and the two union umbrellas have written to yourself and the Prime Minister as well as the Speaker to meet to discuss measures in the budget. And they're saying today in a press statement again that they have had no response from the Prime Minister or the Speaker, but you've indicated that your willingness. Could you say what possible implications?
The government is hiding from its own budget. It does not want to discuss its budget. That's why you see all of this peripheral noise from Jordan, from Nagamutu, from everyone else. Some of them came and read their plans for their ministry for 5 years without saying a word about the budget. They did an obligatory kind of, we support the Minister of Finance. He is a wonderful person. He brought early budget here. And then they said, now I'll tell you what I'll be doing over the next 5 years.
Right.
And half of the time can't even differentiate what was there in the past. So they present it as new thinking.
Yeah.
That's what we had for the debate. No one has ever gone through the issue why and told the people of this country why we're going to be taxing bread or flour at the same rate as we're taxing chocolates. At the same rate. Can someone tell this country why we need to do that? They would not address those things. So it's all about peripheral noise. And so here too, the entire labor movement got together, unified for the first time with the private sector. These are the two main bodies, labor and private sector, coming together and asking to be heard. And they don't even get a reply from government.